collecting is kind of the fun part. Going out in the field and enjoying the birds and the fresh air and getting our feet wet and going kayaking, all that. It's the fun stuff. Making the labels is really not fun. A lot of people I know will do inventories of a natural area or invasive species. You might have some in your closet or your garage. Specimens, if you get a label for them, they're actually valuable. Without a label, it's art. Nothing wrong with art, but it's got to have a label for scientific value. So these are called duplicates. I collect usually 3. This is from Ward Pound Ridge Reservation, Westchester County. So usually one will stay at Pound Ridge in their herbarium, which they have started, and one will go to the New York Botanical Garden, and one duplicate will go to the New York State Museum. So I usually collect 3, distributed in those different places, all with exactly the same label, same number, same everything, except the specimen is a little bit different. No 2 specimens are exactly the same, but you can see they're pretty close. Specimens we made dry in 24 hours with this little space heater. I use 2 of them, one on either side, but it's very simple, very cheap. It doesn't get hot. You can touch it. It just gets warm. So really, that's all we need to do is make the temperature under the plant press greater than the temperature above the plant press or outside the plant press. We want to warm up that water vapor to make it leave more quickly, go into the atmosphere. How's it going to get out?
Evaporation.
Evaporation through the little flutes in the cardboard. So once we have our plants flat and dry and labeled, so the mounter, now they're not the plant collector, they're not usually botanists, and they're not usually field botanists. So they might not have any knowledge of this plant at all. Might have very minimal knowledge of plants. But they're very skilled at preparing museum specimens. They know what they're doing. They've mounted many plants before. They know how to handle this material. The first thing they do is they look for the label, obviously. If there's no label, they take the plant to their specimen to the supervisor. Supervisor can't find the label, in the trash. Maybe it fell out. Still, they look for it, they can't find it, goes in the trash. So the mounter is going to look on the label for the collection number 16473. They don't care who collected it, where they collected it, when they collected it, what they said about it, any of that stuff. What they care about is there's a label, it's got information on it, and the number on the label matches the number on the newspaper. So they're going to take one of these labels, put that over here. Usually they don't mount the label until the last thing. Glue the label on. Standard herbarium paper. Now they're going to take the specimen, place it on the sheet, and you need a little bit of room to work here. So I arrange it on the specimen however I think it's going to fit aesthetically. So the mounters, oftentimes the mounters have a background in art, some kind of art curation, art preparation, artistic expression. That's one reason why they chose that career, is because they like working with this material, the artistic aspects of it. Less often the scientific aspects, more often the aesthetic, artistic. It's crafty, it's working with your hands. And there is a bit of discretion and creativity involved in the mounting. So already the plant is fixed, it's dry, two-dimensional specimen, but they have choices, creativity, options to arrange this. And it's too long. You see how close it is to the margin? Here and here. That's really too close. No mounter would do that. They know that there needs to be some kind of margin all the way around. So we've actually even reduced the real estate for the specimen even more because we've given some room around there. So they know that they're gonna turn this. I knew that when I pressed it that way. The label can overlap the specimen like this. They'll glue it over here. It'll get hinged like that. So you can always see all of the plant. The whole object is the plant. The label is supplementary, but necessary. And you can still examine the plant. You can look at the hairs, put it under the microscope, whatever you need to do. It never goes like this, because then you can't read what's under there. The mounters all know that. It's, first thing they learn. Plant never goes on top of the label. Just like the leaf never goes on top of the stem. If they overlap, the stem is on top of the leaf or the flower, whatever it is. All right, so now they've decided how the plant's gonna go, like this. There's still room for the stamp over here, room for annotation labels, more identifications, room for the packet over here. Nowadays, they get a stamp that says the specimen was imaged. The mounters have to keep all that in mind. Keep a margin all the way around, hopefully fairly even. All right, so all those decisions have been made in about 1 minute for the mounters because they have to mount 35 to 50 of these a day. So they don't have time to contemplate too long. They decide which way the plant's gonna go. So the collector doesn't write on here this side up. That's why we turn at least 1 or 2 of the leaves over, because this is all gonna get glued down. Can't turn it over after that. Every one of these leaves is gonna get glued to the sheet flat. Every scientist ever looks at this in the future, that's all they get to see is the top. So if you want them to be able to see what was going on the bottom of those leaves, often different than the top, the collector is gonna have to turn one over. So they decide which way it's gonna go, but they could do it like that. That's most of them bottom side up. That's not how the collector sent the plant. Sometimes they'll do that. The mounter could do this. That's basically the same thing. It fits, margin all the way around, got more room over here for the label, blah, blah. Everything's the same, except the plant is upside down, which to me is upside down, kind of off balance. But not every mounter, sometimes they have to mount it that way. That's the only way that they can get it to fit. Not every collector's worked in the mounting room. In fact, very few plant collectors actually spent any significant amount of time mounting plants. All right, so we're gonna turn it like this, right side up. I like to collect the plant, mount the plant the way that it grew, the way nature intended, the way the plant intended. We decided which side is up, which one is down, position it. Now, I'm gonna take this and turn it upside down back onto the newspaper where it came from. And this one you can tell the plant is kind of stiff. See that? It's holding out. That's one way you know it's dry. If there was any moisture in here, it would flop like that. The stem would not be rigid. And the leaves would not be rigid. So now's the moment of truth. This is the last chance. No going back from here. So the collector's work is done. It's dry. Now it's the mounter's turn. And you want to get your glue coming out. This is just basically Elmer's glue. It's called polyvinyl acetate. It's it's a modern, kind of a miraculous substance that's reversible in water. So it's water soluble, but very long lasting. As far as we know, this is archival. They used to use like resin, different kinds of, I don't know, horse hooves or something. But this stuff works great. It's slightly flexible, even when it's dry. It dries clear. It's pretty easy to work with, and it cleans up with water. So we want to get a steady stream coming out of our glue bottle, but not real heavy and not big great globs. That's not good. So we want a steady, thin stream coming out of our glue bottle. Now we come over here, and we're going to get that onto the back of the specimen. Our goal is to get this plant attached to that sheet of paper securely and efficiently for long-term storage. So every table should have a moist, every person should have a dry rag and a moist rag. Right there, ready to work with. So we're going to pick that straight up like that without hopefully dragging it through. And we're going to lay it back down just the way we had arranged it to begin with. Now you're going to take your moist rag, and it doesn't take very much, and we're going to press that down. With the reason that rag is moist is to pick up the glue that might be on top. And we want to press all those little bits down. Notice I didn't obsess over getting glue on every single little leaflet. That's not necessary. And we can take care of that later. So I'm pressing those down, and notice I'm pressing straight down. I'm not dragging it across, trying to get that glue off. I'm going straight down and straight up, because you know what will happen when you drag it across. The dry plants are very brittle and fragile. Now we want to glue the label. All we have to do is get enough glue on there that the label is going to be permanently attached. So we want as thin a line as possible. So that's just hardly any glue on there. And we can kind of rub some of that excess off. Line that up here. Now we take the dry rag, and we're going to run that across the top to make sure there's no bubbles. It's not wrinkled. You can see this leaf didn't get any glue on it. Why was that?
Because it was overlapping.
Because it was underneath, right? So the less overlapping we do as a collector, the easier it is going to be to mount this plant. Now we want to get some glue under there because it's sticking up. It's vulnerable to getting broken off. You can test some of these with the spatula or the tweezers. You can see, you could get a little glue under there. Those could break off. So now we want to get those things glued down. We're going to take some of this glue and we're going to lift that up and we're going to run glue underneath and then push that down with our moist rag, just like we did before. See, I put too much glue. Look at all that. Too much glue. It doesn't take very much glue. And follow the rules. We got a little on top. But want to get all that glue off the top. Okay, now I can do these. So the clock is ticking for the mounters. They want to get on to the next one. All right, so this one you can see is broken. It's very floppy. It's a fern. If I covered the back of that with glue, even a little bit, it's going to be so thin and floppy, it's going to go down like that. I'll never get it back onto the sheet. So my goal is that there. The mounters undoubtedly are going to turn it over, probably. So it's a good thing the collector turned some upside down. Now it's more flat. That's probably how they're going to mount it. And I'm going to use the butter knife technique. Like this. And the goal is to get it attached to the paper. See how that one's already buckling up? That's the moisture, the water from the glue warping the paper. So if I'd used any more glue, the more warping we would have. We want to minimize that. So it really does not take very much glue to get it to stay on that sheet. So I get a little bit there. I've decided, all right, it's going to go basically right in the middle. It's fine. I'm going to lift that up, get some glue under there. Press that now. Now the mounters are under time pressure. They want to do 35 of these, or 15 or 20 before lunch. They're going to move around. I'm going to lift each one of these up. Get some glue under there. Do the top. All right, so in the interest of time, I'm going to leave it there. So that's the technique for doing a very delicate plant. Eager to get moving. And so this should get, yes, thank you. Should also get a piece of cardboard in there. Add some weights to hold it down. And that's it. Wax paper. We're going to inspect our sheet, see if there's anything popping off or needs more work. We could do that. Could go underneath there. So this specimen really doesn't need gluing, except see that stem down there separating from the paper just a little bit. The thicker rose stems completely separate. You'll never get a thick enough blob of glue under there to hold those two together. So the only way to permanently attach the two is to sew that. So we're going to make two holes on either side of the stem, like this. Just gonna poke through these needles.
Oh, they are blunt needles, yeah.
Dull.
Really. That's good though. They should go through pretty good.
Kind of hard to. So we made 2 holes, one on either side of the stem, and we could do more if we needed to. And then we turn the sheet over, go through, doesn't matter which side, turn it back over, come up here, all the way to our knot, which is on the other side. Now you want to be careful your thread doesn't get tangled up with the plant. Back through the hole. Pull it like that. There's a museum quality herbarium specimen, pressed, dried, and mounted with the label. So any herbarium in the world would be happy to have this specimen here.